Hey, time for your Friday history briefing. So again, not on campus, I'm out in town. I am actually outside of the American Legion, Burton Woolery Post 18 here in Bloomington. And that's their sign, and you can see the Legion back up on the hill behind me, back up over here. And I'm going to back away from the road a little bit so you'll be able to hear what I'm saying. So why would I be here? A couple of reasons. First off is Burton Woolery also has IU connections. So Burton Woolery was born here in Bloomington in 1897, and he started at IU in 1915 as a student. But when the U.S. officially entered World War I, 6 days later, he joined the National Guard unit here in town, which was a battery of the 150th Field Artillery Battery F, which was part of the 42nd Division. And he joined that unit, and within a few months they were shipped off to France. And within a few months in France, that unit saw they served on the front at Lorraine. They were at Champagne during the German offensive, and it was during the Marne campaign near Chateau Thierry that he was killed by an incoming German artillery shell. That was July of 1918. He was 20 years old. He was the first IU student to die in the war and the first local Monroe County, Bloomington soldier to die in the war. And so the American Legion Post was named after him. And I want to read a quote. This was actually in a letter to Burton Woolery's mom from Austin Seward, who was a friend of his. That's a name you may recognize. The Seward family is a local family, as well as the Woolerys. And so anyway, he says, I was on duty last evening at regimental headquarters when the report was brought in that Burton had been struck by an enemy shell and instantly killed while on duty at his gun. This news sure brought me home to the realization of the war, for he was to me a special friend, a fellow towner, and a brother in the bond of Phi Delta Theta, as well as a relative and a fellow member of the 150th Field Artillery. Burton was conceded by those who knew him to be the best sergeant Battery F had, and his loss is keenly felt by the battery. He was an exceptionally good soldier, took a great interest in his work, and showed a remarkable aptitude and quickness for his particular job, which was one of the most responsible and important parts of the whole scheme of an artillery regiment. He was especially well liked by all who served with him, and always kept up his usual good spirits. And so the Woolery family, which ran the Woolery Mill, also the Bybee family is a later mill owner, stone quarry group that was part of the Woolery family. Anyway, so that when he was killed, his men took him to a cemetery that was about a quarter mile behind the lines, and that's where he was initially buried. But in 1921, they had his body exhumed and brought back to Bloomington so that he could be buried here. And when he was buried here, he was buried with full military honors, including a horse-drawn caisson led by the Bloomington Band, a 21-gun salute, and honors from the American Legion, the VFW, the Grand Army of the Republic, his fraternity, and student organizations. And by then, the post had already been named after him. And so that's why we have the Burton Woolery Post here that is part of the American Legion, but Burton Woolery also has those IU connections, and so you'll see his name on things around campus as well as here. You may also just know the Woolery name from Woolery Mill and some of the other things that are here in town. That was his father's company, and that was his family. So anyway, so there's some local history and some IU history for today's Friday briefing, and we'll see you next Friday.